council meeting for the town of Bay-Westfield on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, to order at 7:02 p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolstonquay land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolstonk, along which live Woolstonquay, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders past and present and descendants of this land. Item 4, resident attendance. We have everyone here today but regrets from Councillor Day. Item 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of October 15th, 2024 as presented with the removal of item 11C, Recreation Hub Committee, and E, Youth Council. Do I have a motion? Councillor Vailman, thanks. Do I have a second? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any? There being none, we'll move on to item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, and petitions. 7A, the public hearing of objections to amend zoning bylaw, PD-009A, a zoning bylaw amendment. I will open the public hearing now. Oh, he does? So we'll do that after the public hearing. You want to do it now? Okay, Jamie? Okay. This is Jamie Burke with Stantec.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to start by thanking your development officer, David, for his cooperation and support and help throughout this exercise. It's been a long time since I've seen a zoning bylaw amendment with 57 items. So as you can appreciate, this has taken a fair bit of time, and a huge shout out to the communications department because we realized that the slide deck hadn't been uploaded, so we just did that within probably 30 seconds, so thanks guys. You're welcome. So just to start, my name is Jamie Burke. I'm an urban planner with Stantec, a large global 32,000 person firm with offices around the world. We have an office in Moncton, an office in St. John, and an office in Fredericton, and we have offices throughout Atlantic Canada. So even though we're a global publicly traded firm, we do like to remind folks that we do have a local presence right here in New Brunswick. So we've been asked to undertake an amendment of an amendment to the zoning bylaw, which is two parts. A has been driven by your housing accelerator funding to shrink lot sizes and increase density in a very gentle way. I want to make that very clear. And secondly, over the course of time, as your development officer and other folks, developers included, as we administer these types of documents, there's little things that creep up from time to time that need to be tweaked or changed. So this is very routine for municipalities to do some housekeeping amendments and roll those into another amendment at the same time. So it's a bit of a combination of the two. So specifically, we're looking at flankage yards, and that's when we have a corner lot with lot frontage on two sides. We looked at tiny homes and mini homes and differentiating between the two within the document. Looking at slightly shrinking the lot width and lot area, so the size of a lot to make a little more use of property or ground that's available. Reevaluating the minimum ground floor areas in view of the zones. Looking at building heights, some flexible density in R1 and R2 zoning, and shipping containers. And I just want to clarify that the only change between the original presentation that we made and the one that we're delivering tonight that's part of your package is we've included definition of a flag lot. We know at the last meeting there was a question about that. We've looked at the documents, that wasn't included, so that change has now been made, and that's a non-substantive change to the original amendment, which you're allowed to do once public notice has been given. So we have a series, I think it's 8 slides, so we'll just run through these very quickly because I know they've been presented before. So with the flankage area specifically, we've just updated some terminology so that all the references to the flankage yards are consistent. The document used to refer to a corner side lot line, and the references weren't consistent, and we've added a definition of a flankage yard. So that's now clear and consistent throughout will be clear and consistent throughout the documents upon registration. We've included a definition of also for a flankage yard. So in zoning, there's front yards, side yards. When you have a lot on the corner, there's still a front yard and there's still a flankage yard. So we've now made that very clear in your zoning bylaw amendment. And we've obviously recommended flankage yard requirements in all of the zones. So anywhere you could possibly have a corner lot, there needs to be a flankage yard requirements. That's now been included. A large part of the initial research and the amendment focused on tiny homes. We know people are talking about tiny homes. We know there's lots of confusion between a tiny home and a mini home. So we've clarified both of those and created a clear distinction between the two, and we've also included where they can be permitted. So if something is listed as a permitted use in one of your zones, that means it's exclusively not permitted in one of the other zones. So we've made that clear where you can and cannot have them. In both cases, both for a mini home and a tiny home. And I think it's important to keep in mind that when you're dealing with zoning bylaw amendments, these are a bit of a test run, especially when we're dealing with new types of land uses. We know there's a housing crisis here in Grand Bay. It's not unique to Grand Bay. It's in St. John, it's in Moncton, it's in Sydney, it's in St. John's, it's throughout Atlantic Canada and throughout Canada. So we are trying to experiment with different ways to allow housing to be more affordable, to provide more options for either land ownership or some type of rental position. So just to close out this slide, we've also included definitions of the two. I won't read them off the screen, but typically when you introduce a new use, you should always introduce a definition. So there's no question about what it is and what it consists of. That should be crystal clear in your zoning bylaw, which is your regulatory document to dictate how land can and cannot be used in the community. We've slightly shrunken the lot sizes in the R1 and R2 zones, just so anybody looking to create a new lot has a bit more flexibility. So we've decreased those slightly from a lot area perspective to allow a more efficient use of land. So we've done two things. We've shrunk the lot width and the lot area. So what you used to be able to need for the size of a lot is now slightly smaller. And that's only in areas that are serviced by municipal sewer and water, of course. We've also opened up an option for flag lots in the residential intensification area, which is identified on your future land use map. And basically, we've added the definitions indicated at the onset, so we just kind of tried to explain what a flag lot is. It's literally like a flag pole with a flag. That top part where your flag would be, the large rectangular area, is typically where, we'll say a house is or some type of structure is permitted. That still has to meet the minimum requirements in the zone. The only difference is that typically you would have a lot that would run straight through to a public street where a resident could gain access on any part of the frontage. In this case, that pole is literally a smaller strip. So typically we see this happen where people start to families are changing, maybe a loved one's passed on, and they have a large lot with a house, as we would typically see at that minimum setback, but maybe a large area behind. This would now allow them to subdivide that house off on an individual parcel and create that flag around the lot to be able to get a second residential dwelling in behind the original house. That's typically what where we see flag lots. So that new definition will help David and his team as they administer the document. We've also proposed some minor changes to the minimum ground floor area in the RR zone. So that's in your mobile where your mobile homes and mini homes are permitted. Basically, just these are typically designed when you're dealing with some type of either semi-detached or a row house, where you want that dwelling to have a minimum size or occupancy on the frontage of the lot or at grade. So these are just shrinking them down a tiny bit to allow them to be a little bit smaller. And the idea is that if the dwelling is smaller, in theory, they should be more economical. So it's just one way to reduce the price in a very simple way to hopefully make the units more affordable. One of the key things that we hear from the development community is the cost of construction. If anybody's trying to build a house or a deck, we know what the price of a 2x4 is. So as you extrapolate that over to the size of the dwelling, we know how much these residential units are costing. So this is a small, easy step without having an impact on the neighborhood to be able to hopefully make a difference for affordability. Building heights, we bumped these up slightly in your R3 or your multiple unit dwelling zone to from 11 meters to 12 meters. Similarly, in your RR zone within the residential intensification area, and the same thing across the board in your commercial area. So up to 12 meters on streets are identified in your active transportation plan. In your general commercial zone, going from 9 to 12, so slightly larger jump. And again, going back to that modest move from 11 meters to 12 meters in your MU zone. This was perhaps one of the most interesting. This is just introducing a bit of flexibility on the edges of your really low density zones. So what we're proposing is some bylaw language that would be supported by your municipal plan. Your municipal plan is encouraging a variety of housing styles. This is certainly consistent with that document. So it's introducing 2 new sections. So in areas where you have your R1 zone, which is your traditionally your lowest density zone within the community, on the edges where that may abut R2, what we're saying is that those same uses are permitted in certain areas. Of course, it has to be. It still has to meet the performance standards. So you don't get an exemption from meeting the rules in that zone. It just allows you to build maybe 2 units instead of 1. And the same for the R2 zone. If you've got an R2 zone that's located, in this case, in a residential intensification area, and it is on the edge of the R3 zone, the same thing may apply. Again, it will all depend on the size of the lot that you have, but it just gives that option to introduce slightly more density that you may otherwise get. So it's trying to make better use of land within, obviously within serviced areas, but on the edges of those higher density locations. And then rounding out, again, it's more of a housekeeping amendment. We know that shipping containers have come up from time to time, not just here. We're now seeing them used for commercial uses, whether it's somebody wanting to do a pop-up tap room or a brewery or a cafe. But also for shipping, not for shipping purposes, but also for storage purposes. So we've just included a definition of shipping containers in the proposed amendment. And we've also indicated specifically where they can be used. And in this case, in the rear yards of commercial and industrial zones when used for storage purposes. So that wouldn't eliminate the option for somebody applying for a temporary use if they did want to try something different, but on a long-term, permanent basis, this would provide clarity in your documents about where this use is and is not permitted. So a lot of communities are moving to similar type of language and struggling with similar types of issues. And then lastly, again, keeping with the housekeeping amendments, these amendments will clarify and amend language in the zoning bylaw. The best example is the flaggage yard. Once you introduce that, you've got to go back and clean up the rest of the document where you refer to a corner side lot line. So it's just a matter of making that consistent as well as adjusting section numbers. As you introduce a new section, it obviously bumps the rest of the paragraphs down slightly. So there's renumbering. We're standardizing the zoning code or just the zoning names in some of those, in some of your zones with mobile home park, which I think is now mobile home residential. Some slight similar wording to that. The highway commercial zone, and lastly, amending section 4.2 of the buildings just to specify that more than one main building on a lot is only permitted in certain locations. So right now, it's a bit of an interpretation where we've recently had a consultant inquire about where you can have more than one main building and where you can't. So we're just trying to clarify and make it a little more clear for the development community so that they don't need to ask those questions. And that doesn't consume some of your development officer's time having to respond to those types of questions. So your worship, that will conclude the short slide deck. Again, there's about 57 amendments. I would consider all to be largely minor in nature, and again, taking an innovative way to introduce a gentle increase in density throughout the community, and I think that's exactly what the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, federal government are expecting communities to do. So kudos on you to be one of the first out of the gate here in New Brunswick to undertake this type of exercise.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm just going to open the floor to questions from council. Councillor Bellman.
Tiny homes, what's the setback by your house, a tiny home or a mini home? How far would that be back? Adjacent to your house, or to be in your front yard, or tiny home?
I would have to check. I believe we said it's got to be in the. Well, it depends actually, because it can be attached to your home. So it would still have to meet the minimum setback requirement.
Right.
Oftentimes, what we see is them being sometimes attached like a garage, or it's a garage conversion, or if it's a detached accessory structure, it's in the backyard.
In the sewage hookup, how does that work in a tiny home? I don't know, is that part of the?
No, I don't know that it's relevant to the bylaw, but maybe staff can answer that question for you after.
Yeah.
We have David answer the questions on the setback.
The setbacks would be consistent with the setbacks that we have now. The big change is the linkage yard setbacks on the corners where previously there was a 7.5 meter setback from the street, and it's reduced in some cases to 5.
Yeah, most often, we see these types of dwellings in the backyard. We're slightly set back, so they still need to provide parking. Yeah, so typically they snug it up a little bit next to the house and they push it back, and then that provides a little bit more parking.
My sewage question, probably in the well question, the town, so, yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We have any other questions for Jamie from council on the amendments to the zoning bylaw? Well, that's great. Thank you very much for your presentation and all your work. 57 amendments is no small feat, so we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will call 3 times for anyone that would like to speak to the zoning bylaw amendment. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the zoning bylaw amendment? Is there anyone who would like to speak to the zoning bylaw amendment? There being none, I will now close the public hearing. And if council is amenable so that we can let Jamie go a little bit early, if we could move item 10 up to now and do the 3rd reading of the bylaw, is that acceptable to council? That's acceptable to council. So the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield accept the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee, and upon hearing all presentations made at the hearing of objections for proposed draft bylaw number PD-009A, amendments to zoning bylaw, proceed with 3rd reading and enactment of the bylaw. 3rd reading by title. Bylaw number PD-009A, zoning bylaw amendments. Do I have a motion from council? Deputy Mayor Toole, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Burpee, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. And thanks again, Jamie and David, for all of the work on that. Very much appreciated. We'll move on to item 8, minutes of previous meeting. 8A, regular council minutes of September 23rd, 2024. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of September 23rd, 2024 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councillor Balcon, thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Bellman. Any question or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. 8B, email poll, Recreation Hub Chair. Motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield ratify the email poll recreation hub chair. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Toole, thank you. Do we have a second? Councillor Burpee, any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. And the next item, item 9, unfinished business, and that's 9A, Park Avenue, Layla Street Traffic Pattern Review. And I will turn that over to the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an item that dates back over a year. And we're just asking council to affirm the original decision that was made previously, to remove the stop sign on Park Avenue at the intersection of Park Avenue and Layla Street, and add a new stop sign on Layla Street before entering Park Avenue in the new traffic bylaw. It's been identified that that intersection has atypical signage and atypical pattern, and it's recommended to be changed to conform to typical signage, because there are deliveries and whatnot that go up that street, and this is for safety. And it's best that there be typical signage and patterns to be consistent, and that's what we're suggesting. Further, there's the speaker has at last time asked who is liable if a vehicle slides off the road. In all circumstances, it's the responsibility of the operator of the motor vehicle to have care and control. Further, we received an email from the speaker and who asked about traffic guidelines not being supported. Anyways, basically what the engineer says, and this report will be posted on the website at after it's approved on October 28th, I guess. So October 29th, you might be able to look for it on the website. And primarily what the engineer identifies as a clear line of sight, and it's difficult to see a vehicle coming up park. A second question, and these are abbreviated answers, okay? The engineer question was, why are we using statements around guidelines? And he says winter considerations were one part of his reasoning. We also want to say that the Works Commissioner has committed to, I don't know what the best word is, trying to increase the level of service on that intersection, that area, because of the steepness of the hill.
Well, the snow and ice plan currently has it as a priority one, and we understand it's the steepest road that we have in the town, so it is a priority one.
Yeah.
And now that, again, it is under our own control, and we're gonna monitor and make sure it is a priority one, and we see the priority one level of service as well. Make sure
Excuse me. So we want to improve winter maintenance, and this is an ongoing issue. And then this is not the case. Layla Street and Phillip were the first streets on this road and extensions of the park. The engineer says it's good context, however the extension of park fundamentally changed the traffic conflicts at the intersection of Park and Layla. And again, it's difficult to read all this. It will be posted. With council's permission, I can email this out tomorrow or Wednesday. No, tomorrow is Wednesday or Thursday. Now, at the end of the day, we're recommending that because it was asked to be reviewed, we've had a professional engineer review it, we're asking that we stick by the engineer's recommendation.
Thank you very much, and I actually want to acknowledge that we have a number of residents from the affected area in the audience with us today. Thank you for joining us here today. Do you have any questions for Deputy Mayor Toole?
This has been an interesting one. I think I can speak for many of us. I know last time that now that it is the steepest road in the town, and I do think that now that we've seen the report, there's no question we need a stop sign at the bottom. It's getting rid of the stop sign that's currently there, because I know there were concerns about sliding down that were expressed by people in that neighborhood. Is there a reason we need to take the other stop sign out, or can we just add it and have both, like for added safety?
I'm
wondering if that would-
I think recollection was vehicles traveling uphill having to. I'm not sure.
You was traveling uphill not to get a stop sign, just not to take the one that's there, not to add one coming up.
Okay, so currently there's one stop sign, I guess, on the,
Yes,
after you go through the intersection,
yes,
for the three houses
On the other side.
in sort of the cul-de-sac with a stop sign there.
Yeah.
So that's, flat. And then they have, again, from there, a better line of sight for the hill on Leland coming through. So again, with the traffic, you recommend that some stop sign not be there. Again, not atypical, because you're just driving through on a straight line. Again, coming up is you can't have anything on going up the hill, because you can't stop when you get going in the winter coming through. And again, so that's what the stop sign is on the Leland portion, which again, you need to be safe, and we need to keep the road safe down through that. So I guess you can leave the stop sign, it's atypical, it's no benefit, it's not a traffic thing, it's
I think it's,
because it's,
well, what I took from the presentation, but I took it from residents that, because it is so steep and there is maybe a concern of sliding through, that maybe it's just an added safety to have the other stop sign there. I don't, if it doesn't harm anything, I just think it might appease everyone. I was wondering, but again, I'm in full agreement with the traffic. I think we do need that stop sign at the bottom of Leyland. I think now that we've seen that, it's just the question of the other one. I'm not certain it needs to go.
So we'll come back, I'm just gonna go through the questions and we'll come back. Councillor Dillon?
After reading the street prior, it wasn't one street all one section, this Park Street extension was added after. So how did that work out? Did they just make a T on the bottom, or was it all one street one? It's only one street one time, even Phillips Street on top hill doesn't have a stop sign, so it must be one continuous road all the way around, like it's think, because this is not a typical hill, street, you always want an angle, and it's steeper there at the bottom. I drove to it many times, I know all about it. It's a dangerous street, when you come down that hill, like I say, why you couldn't make cut the corner off a little bit and make it a one street? In the Leo Street, that little Park Street, had stop sign, existing stop sign, it worked many years. This is not a normal street, and I feel for the people up on the hill that have to go up the hill and come back down again. There must be a better solution to fix this problem than put a stop sign, 2 stop signs.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have any other questions for the CAO or the Works Commissioner? So the motion that I have here for your consideration is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield affirm their original motion to remove the stop sign on Park Avenue at the intersection of Park and Leela and add a new stop sign on Leela before entering Park Avenue in the new traffic bylaw. Now, Deputy Mayor, did you want to make an amendment to that motion?
Just to amend the part of removing the stop sign and just add the new stop sign. That keeps the traffic, we don't go against the engineer's recommendation of getting one on the hill down, but I think that might address the residents' concerns of removing that one.
Okay, so are you, just so I'm clear, based on your comments, the motion would then be that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield add a new stop sign on Leela Street before entering Park Avenue in the new traffic bylaw?
So that's the part that was recommended by the engineer.
Okay. So do I have that correct?
Yeah.
And are you making that motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Can I just ask a question?
Well, why don't you second it and then we can discuss?
Okay.
Or somebody can second it,
Okay.
we can discuss.
Sure,
Do you
I'll
second
second
it? Okay, all right, Councillor?
Leave the stop sign at the end of the Park Avenue extension.
Yes.
Add a stop sign coming down Lima.
Yes. Just because the one that's in the extension is the one that's there now.
Councillor?
Yeah, I feel for the residents and I understand their concerns, but I think because a study has been done, if I understand correctly, if we choose not to put a stop sign there, then the town is liable if something happens.
we may,
We may be liable. So now that the study's been done, I don't think we have a choice but to approve what the study suggested. But I agree, I think we should leave the stop sign where it is now, and we have to do what the study recommended, I think. And I know that's not what everyone wants to hear, but I think to prevent the town from being liable, that's what we need to do because the study's already been done.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion on the table? just so everyone's clear, I'll reread the motion. And the motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield add a new stop sign on Leela Street before entering Park Avenue in the new traffic bylaw. And so do I need to, no, that's not the correct motion, I don't think, because we have to,
No, that is.
is it? Okay.
Yes, so we don't want, the councillor has amended, but we not remove the stop sign, so you took out that clause.
Right,
But
okay.
we still need that, the one at the bottom, per the recommendation.
Do I have that correct? Just for clarity's sake? Yeah? Any questions or comments on the motion?
Still have a question about the street, still wanna talk about it?
Yeah, if there are questions or comments, who are you directing it to?
Well, to her, about the street.
CEO and Works?
Yeah, sure. So if you do cut the corner off and make it one street, how could you make it happen, like cut the corner off down on the corner of, Neal Street on the, up the hill, and make it a continuous road, put a line on it, then when you have to, when you drive a road, you have a line on it, you can't cross over to Park Street, like any place, because in the Milledgeville, there's a Milledge Avenue, and, Adelaide Street has the same idea, you stop, you keep driving continuously, so when you pull across the road on a solid line, you can't go in without looking both ways, right? It's common sense.
Well, you know, I'll ask the Works Commissioner to correct me, my understanding is we could do that, but it doesn't resolve the inherent safety items and the fact that it's an atypical pattern. And that's what the engineer is suggesting. Is that
Right, and that's what the engineer should, and again, with this here, again, it's not typical, because if this example or was flat, there wouldn't be an issue. If it was a flat intersection, everybody would, but it's the grade that's causing the problem. But it's not a June, July problem, it's a wintertime problem, which is why it's priority one, that you need to receive that service. But again, if you're driving a motor vehicle, you need to be under control and be able to stop even in the middle of the road, charge, but you need to be able to, so.
I will ask for quiet in the room.
So you need to be able to stop.
So you're right, Tommy, engineers don't get it wrong sometimes. That's what it feels like. Because I live on a street with 40, it's Palmer Science Street, and it goes down to a single lane, and they still want to do 40 on a single lane road, 9 feet wide. I don't understand. Because sometimes engineers don't get it right. And I don't think it's right, just here, again. So, it's not good.
Are there any other questions or comments on the motion? Councilor McIntyre?
Just a comment, I do understand that it's only a winter concern. And it has been zoned as a priority one street. But according to the residents, it hasn't been treated as a priority one street, so I guess we just need to be mindful of that for the Works Department when the time comes.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, I will ask for a vote on the amended motion, and all in favor? Sorry, I can't hear. 1, 2, Councillor, your name? Sorry, so 2, and who's in favor? Okay, and opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed, so the motion has been defeated. So that means that the original motion stands.
No, we asked you to affirm the original motion. So that means council has not affirmed it. That means we have to go back, bring that motion forward and have it repealed.
Okay, so we have
We're
to
not-
repeal the original motion.
Yeah, so I don't have it here, but we'll bring it to council next time.
Alright.
So basically, council has changed the line, that's what's happened.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Alright, we will move on to item 11, new business recommendations.
Sorry, just for clarification,
Yes.
what that means, the things will stay the same, they're not changing, okay?
Alright.
Yeah, you can leave, yeah, sorry.
Well, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but it's probably not gonna be any more exciting than this.
Well, this is coming up again, and we have to come do the same thing.
No, it's not, Well, it'll only be that council repeals it. I wanna look into what the proper process is, but council's changed their mind, the signage won't be changing.
Thank
Okay?
you very much, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11, new business recommendations, 11A, designated highway PMHP 5-year plan. And John, I'll pass that over to you.
So before I turn it over to the Works Commissioner, DTI has been going from 3-year plans to 4-year plans to now 5-year plans. I want to draw your immediate attention to 2027, deteriorated culverts under Nerpus Road at 561 Nerpus Road. I don't know that administration can reserve the right. However, we are doing an investigation into those culverts. We are concerned about their state. And we may go to DTI and to council requesting that they be done sooner than 27 than in 27. But I believe the engineers are doing that study this fall, and we're awaiting what they find. So that item may be coming back to council sooner than later and going to DTI sooner than later. I'll turn it over to the Works Commissioner. He's been working on this item.
So again, yeah, that, you So yeah, so the road ahead plan, it originally started for a 3-year plan, and then they come back and ask for a 4-year plan, and now they come back and ask for a 5-year plan. So this is the 5-year plan, so this goes from 2027 to 2031. So again, here's the report, it outlines as they have given us money for 2025 and 2026. So this is for 2027. So again, as John said, we have a culvert that we're investigating that may come ahead, but right now it's scheduled for 2027. And then for the next 5 years after that, or the next 4 years after that, each year is to be paid. And depending on the allotment of money, if they give us more, we'll pay more, but that's the plan for the 2027 to 31 is to get the resurfacing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any questions from council on the 5-year plan? There being none, I'll read the motion. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve the document entitled the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield 5-year plan for the Provincial Municipal Highway Partnership Program 2027-2031 with the following capital investments per the plan. Year 2027, replace 2 deteriorated culverts under Nerpus Road at 561 Nerpus Road. Year 2028, asphalt resurfacing from the northern town boundary south for 3.5 kilometers. Year 2029, asphalt resurfacing from McLean Road north 3.2 kilometers to meet 2028 resurfacing. Year 2030, asphalt resurfacing from southern boundary line north 1 kilometer, Peace Park. Year 2031, asphalt resurfacing from the end of 2030, resurfacing north to Allen Street. Do I have a motion? Councillor Burpee, thank you, and do I have a second? Deputy, Councillor Balcom, I think you got it first. Any questions or comments on the motion? Yeah.
Are we approving the option as well, like option 1, 2, or 3? You're recommending option 1. Are we approving that if we pass this?
Not sure option.
I don't understand the question.
So in 2020, I think 2026, no, 2025, there were 3 options. Removal of existing asphalt curb and sidewalk and replace with concrete curb.
So we're only doing the motion. The other ones.
Right, so that's not part of this.
No.
Any other questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you, council. 11B, subdivision sunset line, pass it over to the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. The development officer's been working on this, and I'll ask him to do a summary.
This is a combination of 2 applications, side by side, so one parcel is being added to an existing lot. The bigger lot is a new building lot with frontage on Sunset Valley Road. and the only requirement is the land for public purpose, went to BAC for their recommendation, so.
Okay, good. Right, any questions before I read out the motion? There being none, the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield accept $456 as money in lieu of land for public purposes for the creation of lot 24-1 out of PID number 30123665 on Sunset Valley Road. Do I have a motion? Councillor Bellmans, thank you. I have a second. Deputy Mayor Toole, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Move on to 11D, Remembrance Day road closure. And John, would you like to speak to the item, please?
Yeah, this is an annual request from the Legion, specifically Corey Ryan. This is just to close down a portion of Holistic Drive for the Remembrance Day ceremony. Just please note, last year the RCMP also closed down River Valley Drive for, I think it was 2 minutes for the moment of silence during the service. So yeah, council has approved this on an annual basis.
Thank you, John. I'll read the motion. Motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield approve a temporary road closure of Woolstoke Drive between River Valley Drive and Highland Road from 10 o'clock a.m. until 12 noon on November the 11th, 2024. Under provisions of the traffic bylaw number 80, the organizers are to notify RCMP, DTI, Ambulance New Brunswick, and the Fire Rescue Department to ensure continuity of emergency services. Do I have a motion?
So
Councillor Balcom, thanks. Do I have a second? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Move on to item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the October 15th, 2024 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $292,328.02. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee, and that was a second from Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thanks. Item 13, consent agenda. 13A, Mitchell Realty, request for donations. B, monthly building report, September 2024. Monthly fire rescue report, July 2024. Monthly fire rescue report, August 2024. Monthly fire rescue report, September 2024. PAC minutes, July 2nd, 2024. CCBF funding agreement. H, UMNB 2024 AGM package. I, UMNB municipal forum 2024. J, UMNB party candidate questionnaire responses. K, Shore Up shoreline restoration program. L, YMCA strategic presentation. M, Philip Reeves, thank you. End consent agenda. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for October 15th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Councillor Burpee, thanks, and a second from Deputy Mayor Toole. Any questions or comments on the item? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 14, council reports. So we'll start with Councillor Bellmans today.
Well, we had a ProKids meet last Wednesday of the month. It was a good meeting, and we had a UMB meet conference the last October, so it's all good for me.
Yeah, thanks, John. Councillor Burpee.
Thank you, Your Worship. October 2nd, I attended the Community Vitality meeting where the focus was on Fall Fest and all of the activities that are coming up, which we encourage everyone to attend and come out and celebrate all local businesses. Also, October 5th and 6th, I attended the UMNB conference in Fredericton with a lot of my fellow colleagues here, and so that's always an interesting weekend in collaboration and networking with different municipalities and hearing their challenges and discussing potential solutions, and just want to put a reminder out there to pay attention to the candidates who are running and exercise your vote.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Toole.
So I was also at the UMMB conference with several of us, which was great. I did 2 days. And the last week of September, I also, since you were away, I got to attend a few fun events on your behalf. And one in particular was the YMCA of Southwestern New Brunswick. They had a regional mayors forum. They hosted the mayors in the region and gave us a tour of the new facility at the Glen Carpenter Center, which is to be used by everybody in the region, and it's a fantastic facility. So it just reminded us again about all the services the Y has for everyone in our region. So that was great. Also had the Community Vitality Committee meeting as well, which was great. And again, Fall Fest is coming up, so make sure to keep your eye out for that one. And I just have one quick end note. I just wanted to congratulate a lot of the students in our region from Harborview High for their recent presentation or production of Beauty and the Beast. They did the musical, and I think every show was sold out. And people were saying the quality was just out of this world. So I think that Harborview has a history of putting on great productions, and I think this one might have even topped it. So it was a great job. So great job to all of the kids. I just saw pictures everywhere. A lot of the kids were from our region, so good job to the school.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Thank you. October 2nd, I also attended the Community Vitality Committee meeting where we spoke about Fall Fest and briefly All the Terror, which is also coming up. October 4th to 6th, I also attended the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick in Fredericton. So that was a great 3 days of learning and getting to meet new people and make new contacts. And last week, October 9th, Councillor Burpee and I decorated Unity Park for fall. And so if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you head there and do your photo op. I've seen all your pictures and heard of a lot of people that have been there, so.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Belton.
Thank you, Your Worship. This year, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the 3-day weekend in Fredericton with UMMB. I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to because, as other councillors have said, it's always a great networking and learning opportunity. Last week, I attended a PAC meeting, and this Thursday, I do have a TD Harbour Station board meeting. And I'd like to for those who haven't seen it, to take a drive up Colonel Mace Boulevard. There's some activity taking place, some trees have been cut down, and it looks like there's some development about to take place. So we're very, very anxious to learn about exactly what that development is, and but it's a good first step to see trees cut down, knowing that they're cut down for a specific purpose, and I can only assume it's for housing. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. And mine will be short tonight because, as the Deputy Mayor referenced, I spent some time away the last couple of weeks, so the Deputy Mayor did a lot of pinch hitting for me while I was gone, but I did get back in time to attend the UMNB conference in Fredericton. As everybody else has said, it's just a phenomenal opportunity to learn new things and meet colleagues and talk about your challenges and opportunities, and how it doesn't matter what municipality you're in, a lot of us have the same opportunities and the same challenges, and how do you handle them. And so it's really, really a great weekend overall. So that's pretty much it for me. With that, we'll move on to item 15, business arising from committee of the whole. There being none, we'll move on to item 16, adjournment. And the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 7:51 p.m. Do I have a motion? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence, and second by Deputy Mayor Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Thank you, council, and thank you to the leadership team and staff.